But Anthony, your government has modelled negative gearing changes and CGT changes.
Well,
the Treasurer has done that.
That's not right.
Well, it is.
The public
actually
service.
right.
Well, under our public service, we actually value the public service, and we value them coming up with ideas and doing assessments. That's what's happened.
I can't
but
believe,
I have
David,
been
to be
very
honest.
clear. I have been very clear about what our position is and why that is the case.
Was it modelled?
It certainly wasn't commissioned by us to do so.
It was modelled by the government. It was that's publicly available. This Prime Minister has a problem with the truth.
You do seem to be having trouble saying where you would cut. You've said a lot of areas where you won't. What about foreign aid? Would you cut foreign aid?
We've said in relation to the public service that we will protect frontline positions, which I think is important, incredibly important. And we've announced more funding for GPs into general practice, and there are many other areas
so where do
you could cite.
This is the question. Where do you cut?
Where we find inefficiency, David, and it's not something you can do from opposition to redesign the public service and the way in which that structure works.
Is foreign aid going to be cut?
Well, we haven't made any announcements in relation to foreign aid, and there's a lot of good that we're doing in foreign aid. And the principle that we've had, like any good Liberal government, like John Howard when he came in '96 after Keating had done so much damage, we will make sure that we're spending taxpayers' money efficiently. Okay. And whatever we can give back, we will, which is why we've said that to deal with the crisis that Anthony's created, in everybody's budget at the moment, we'll give back $1,200 of people's tax that they've paid by way of rebate.
If local communities, be they local farmers or local communities where you've earmarked these nuclear plants to go, if they say no, and if the state governments say no, which in Queensland the LNP government isn't on board, what happens? Do you override them?
Well, David, the Commonwealth obviously has powers and we can exercise those powers if need be, but we can work with the state governments. In South Australia, the South Australian Premier has been very clear of his support for nuclear, as many figures within the union movement and in the Labor Party have as well. So,
so you don't override those concerns?
We'll work to find consensus.
Use Commonwealth
if we
powers
can't find consensus, then we'll do what's in our country's best interest.
I understand the propensity to get stuck into each other. You're agreeing we are seeing the impact of climate change?
I think you can see that there's an impact, David, but I don't... In my home state, you made reference to floods and natural disasters events. We were out in Thargomindah the other day. That has been a part of the history of our state, of this country, and we need to...
Is it getting worse?
Well, I'll leave others to...
What do you think? You're a Queenslander?
I'll let scientists and others pass that judgment, but...
Really? You're not willing to say this is climate change happening right now?
Well, as the Prime Minister refused to do the other day to make comment in this regard as well, I don't know, David, because I'm not a scientist and I can't tell you whether the temperature has risen in Thargomindah as a result of climate change or that the water levels are up in Thargomindah's latest flood as a result of climate change.
Can I talk about the science and be a Prime Minister who backs it up? The science is very clear. Doesn't mean that every single weather event is because of climate change. It does mean that the science told us that the events would be more extreme and they'd be more frequent. And that is what we are seeing playing out, whether it be increased bushfires, increased flooding, these extreme weather events that are having an impact.
Well, David, the reference I was making shouldn't have been to the President. It was in relation to sources from the Prabowo government.
So was that a mistake?
It was a mistake, and I'm happy to admit that what we got from the Indonesian authorities in the reports, and the Prime Minister commented on these reports yesterday as well, was that the sources inside the Prabowo government confirmed that was the case.
Do you trust him was the question?
Well, we trust the United States, and I don't know the President. I've not met him. The Prime Minister obviously has been able to.
So you're not willing to say you trust Donald Trump?
I don't know Donald Trump is my point. My point is that who I trust is the Australian people, and my job is to stand up for our country's interests, which is what I did when we negotiated the AUKUS deal with President Biden.
Okay. Mr Albanese, do you trust Donald Trump?
Yeah, I have no reason not to. I've had a couple of discussions with him. In the last discussion, we agreed on a series of words that he would give consideration. Great consideration was the words that he used.
And do you trust China's president, Xi Jinping?
I have no reason not to either. In terms of the discussions that we have had as one-on-one discussions have been important. China's our major trading partner. 1 in 4 Australian jobs depends upon trade.
Do you trust Xi Jinping?
Well, David, again, I don't know the president of China, but I believe very strongly in the relationship that we have because of the reasons the Prime Minister outlined.
Would it really be a disaster for the country, or is this just a bit of political hype if the other guy won? Mr Albanese?
I think there are very different values that we have. I can have a private discussion with Peter. I can call him round to the office, and he does so regularly. And my office is open to every member of Parliament. But I don't take this personally. But I have a very different view of Australia. And I think that Peter has taken his party to a more conservative bent than it has ever been. And I want very much to be able to continue the work that our government's been able to achieve.
All right, Mr Dutton.
Well, David, on matters of national security or issues that are important for our country, the Prime Minister and I can have a conversation and have on a number of occasions to find a bipartisan position to advance that cause. But as Anthony points out, we've got different visions and different pathways, and it really hurts me to see young Australians completely locked out of the housing market. It hurts me to see young families putting off having kids under this government. And the reason the Prime Minister is running a scare campaign at the moment is that he doesn't want to talk about the reality of the last 3 years, which has been a failure for our country. And the 29,000, 30,000 small businesses, behind every one of those stories is somebody who's lost their home, somebody who's lost their life savings or their job. And I have a vision where we can run our economy successfully so we can help people up and provide support to them and to keep our country safe.